Aging website and has written a book called Finding Hope and Faith in the Face of Death, Insights of a Rabbi and a Mourner. This quick read, the 77-page book, contains 16 Yizkor sermons selected from Rabbi's 37 years in the rabbinate. And they teach us about coping, legacy, community, and the power of Kaddish. For the past 6 years, Rabbi Karol has been living his passion, teaching how to navigate the difficult life stages of death and dying, and finding perspective in dire times, such as today's pandemic. Tonight, he'll share his thoughts with us on the Yom Kippur liturgy, getting through this pandemic, and the hopefulness of Judaism.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Getting a little technical assistance here.
Can everybody see that? Yes, I think she muted you. Can everybody see that? Yes?
Okay, great. So thank you and good evening, everybody. Welcome to my presentation, which is officially entitled, Who by Plague, the Helplessness of the Pandemic and the Hopefulness of Judaism as reflected in our Yom Kippur liturgy. I want to thank my longtime friend, Rabbi Address, for inviting me, and Jill Metlin for coordinating everything and introducing me, and my wife, Donna, for her love, her technological expertise, and her musical expertise, which has enhanced the content of this program. This is the coronavirus, AKA COVID-19, under the microscope, up close and personal. It is, in my opinion, truly a plague. Since we first started hearing about it earlier in the year, we become accustomed to informational images on our screens, whether they are on our televisions or computers, iPads or phones. We've seen multicolored maps depicting the spread of the disease from state to state, ever increasing numbers of cases and deaths, advice on how to stop the spread, information about the coronavirus on surfaces, and visual tips indicating what we can do to prevent transmission. Speaking of visual, for those of you that are on the phone, even though I'll be describing slides, the content of the description should still keep you in connection with what we're doing. We've been made aware of COVID-19 symptoms, informed about dangerous underlying conditions, presented with slogans such as stay in place, maintain your space, cover your face, shown how to social distance in public, and reminded how important it is for us to wear masks, not just for our sake, but for the sake of others. Contributing to our sense of helplessness, at least for some of us, is the refusal of some people to wear masks in public. Whether that refusal is based on a belief that we just should not be told what to do, that the science is erroneous or invalid, or that wearing a mask is just a political statement, it is frustrating to those of us who comply. We really don't know what to say to people who won't wear a mask. And even if we did know, we may be reluctant to say anything because we're afraid of how they may react. We have a special new vocabulary of words and phrases that have taken on new meaning or never meant much to most of us unless we're scientists. The song Happy Birthday will probably never be thought of in the same way as it is now. Washing your hands for 20 seconds may become as common as turning off the water when you brush your teeth. I don't know about you, but I do that. Zoom means something different than before. Trash bags as protective clothing were unheard of before the pandemic. And vaccine means hope. And then there are the images that uplift us and the images that make us feel helpless as individuals. We have newfound or increased respect for essential workers, especially those in the medical profession, some of whom have given their lives as they've tried to save the lives of others. Too often, and more often now than before, lives cannot be saved. There's nothing we can do about it as individuals except take care of ourselves and isolate. We can mourn for our relatives and friends who have been victims of this plague, but we are helpless to stop it beyond our own personal actions. We rely on our political leaders, but they don't always come through. The doctors and nurses and other medical personnel can't save everyone. We pray for healing, but it doesn't come to everyone. We can do everything right for ourselves and those we love, but we are helpless to bring an end to this 21st century plague. And sometimes in life, when we feel helpless, we feel lonely. On Passover, we ask, Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol halaylot? Why is this night different from all other nights? This year, we could ask, why are these high holy days different from all other high holy days? A one-word answer would be coronavirus. But the question deserves more of an answer than that. They are different because we are not all together physically. But that doesn't mean that we can't be together spiritually and emotionally. Our community may be virtual, but our sense of community can be very real, just like it was on Passover for me and my family, and I hope for you. On Yom Kippur, prayers are about the power of community and the power of hopefulness over helplessness. I'm going to present you with a number of examples. The pages that you will see are from the Reform Movement's Machzor, High Holy Day Prayer Book, Mishkan HaNefesh. Too many Jews regard this prayer, the Unatana Tokef, as depressing and fatalistic. It refers to the metaphor about the book of life, in which God inscribes our future at the end of Yom Kippur. This list of positive and negative outcomes may make some people feel as if they are beaten before they start because of the scariest ones. They may feel that life and death are totally predetermined. And did you ever think that who by plague would be relevant during your life? But as we will see later, the end of this prayer is about being active and not passive, hopeful and not helpless, faithful and not faithless. announcement at the end. It's okay. Known more for its beautiful melody and chanting than its content, and sometimes the instrumental piece, the Kol Nidre is technically a legal formula and not a prayer. For close to 900 years, it has recognized that Jews have sometimes been forced to swear oaths they didn't mean, or have been placed in situations where we spoke too soon or too harshly and didn't intend to do so. If you feel lonely when the Kol Nidre starts, you shouldn't feel that way when it's done, because we're all in this together. Can you hear it? Yes. I get chills whenever I hear that chanted. So we're just a few pages into the evening service at this point, and we see these words of V'nislach and Slachna that come from the book of Numbers. When the people are forgiven by God for making mistakes, when Moses advocates for them, and when God responds to Moses's proactive and kind request. You could draw the conclusion from these three quotations that at this point in the service, we're home free, that we can approach the rest of Yom Kippur with hope, and that forgiveness will most definitely be ours. It seems like we're going to the end of the book and reading how the story turns out, but it's intended to set a positive tone for the entire day of atonement, and that's exactly what it does. One of the effects of isolation during the pandemic is the feeling that we are truly alone, missing out on the physical and emotional connections we experienced and maybe took for granted before. This prayer, the Avot V'Imahot, on Shabbat and weekdays, festivals, and the High Holy Days, reminds us that we are one people with a common heritage and ancestry, no one better than another, all deserving of kindness and love and protection, all wishing to be inscribed equally in the book of life. The remember us for life and inscribe us in the book of life sentences down near the bottom of the page are special inserts for the High Holy Days, as you might know. At a time when we are flooded with previously unimaginable statistics about sickness and death, when we may see the rising numbers and think that there is nothing to be done to stop them, we need hope. Like the Avot V'Imahot, the Gevurot relates the powers of God to our lives. It does not say that God directly makes people live and makes them die. It does say that God is there for us in both life and death. It emphasizes God's compassion, exactly what we need when life itself and our feelings are so fragile. This is an hour prayer, a community prayer if I ever saw one. The Machal Lanu is a recognition of connection, an admission of being imperfect, hoping that what we've done wrong will be forgiven, and confessing that we sometimes do exactly what we shouldn't do because we think we know more than anyone, including God. The next few prayers involve confession. To me, it's all about taking responsibility for what we say and do, and for what we don't say and don't do. Apologizing and asking for forgiveness is a sign of strength, not of weakness. This is called Vidui Zuta, the short confession. It appears both in the evening service and in the morning service and consists of 4 prayers, 2 of which you can see here. Given the choice between the short confession and the long confession, you'd think that most people would prefer the former over the latter, just to save time, or even to do one instead of the other. A commentary in the Machzor says, Vidui, the act of confession, represents our movement toward God. Self-disclosure precedes the seeking of forgiveness. We can picture it as a ritualized dance. First, we take small steps, the short confession called Ashamnu. Then, feeling more confident, we immerse ourselves in a powerful piece of worship, the long confession, Al Chet. During these confessions, some worshipers strike their chest in rhythm to the chant, so that like a dance, the prayer is felt physically as well as emotionally. So the second prayer on the page is the Ashamnu. It's an alphabetical acrostic in Hebrew. Its words are meant to express the theoretical totality of the congregation's sins, from A to Z, so to speak. One of the rabbis from the Talmud said, "Great is repentance, for it transforms one's deliberate sins into merits." Commenting on that, a 20th century rabbi said, "This teaching points us in a new and surprising direction. The focus is not on changing the past, but on defining a new direction for the future. For teshuvah, repentance, after all, is ultimately about changing ourselves, not only clearing our record of past deeds that we are now ashamed of. Indeed, the very goal of teshuvah is to transform the sins of the past into the roots of a new life." What these two great rabbis are saying is that we can be in control of our behavior and influence our own future. According to this prayer, in my opinion, the Al Chet, we have that power, and the long confession begins. The striking of the heart for those who do it symbolizes taking to heart the words we say rather than acting like we're beating ourselves up. Using the term God of forgiveness tells us a lot about this line of the prayer. It means that we're optimistic about the positive outcome of our confessions. It isn't just about asking God to forgive us. To do that is an important step, the first step. Then we ask to be pardoned, the second step. admitting to ourselves and to God that we're not perfect, but that we are still worthwhile human beings. And the third step, atonement, is the recognition that being able to apologize is good for the soul and can lead to positive actions. Apologizing is necessary to start the process. Self-awareness and self-love continue it, and positive actions conclude it. Sometimes the sins for which we confess on Yom Kippur are not actually sins that we've committed. I don't know if you've experienced that, but I certainly have. But remember, this is a communal prayer, and there's bound to be someone in the community for whom certain categories are relevant, while for us they are thankfully irrelevant. The question is asked, why do we confess to wrongs we haven't personally committed? The 16th century mystic Isaac Luria taught that the people of Israel may be likened to a body of which every Jew is a living part. The vitality of the whole depends upon the health of every organ and limb. That is how deeply we're connected to one another. So, each individual sin inflicts damage on the whole organism, and all of us share in responsibility for healing the body of Israel. In our tradition, sin, defined by the Hebrew word chet, means not living up to your potential. It can occur in our minds and come out of our mouths. We sometimes exhibit poor judgment and act out of ill will. But as the note at the bottom of the page says, we are part of a community that joins with us in the work of teshuvah, introspection, acknowledgement of weaknesses and strengths, and at the end of the day, a return to the right path. Let's hold that. We'll do that one at the right time. I screwed up. So we're still going to do this. I know, I'll do this first. I'll do this and then transfer. The Avinu Malkeinu is one of my favorites, and it's one of the most hopeful prayers in our liturgy because we approach God with the respect that we would show for a sovereign ruler. We also approach God with the love which we would hopefully feel for a parent, Avinu, and which we would hopefully feel would be reciprocated. The so-called bad news for us is that we've strayed and sinned. We ask for a hearing, for an end to the bad, sickness and violence and hunger and pain and terror, and the presence of good, lives well lived, goodness, blessings, and redemption. Sometimes we just don't realize that praying for them is not enough. Sometimes we have the ability to contribute to the bad and the good in our communities and in our world. This version did not include all of the words on the page, the version that you heard, but we picked it because it conveys such a soulful mood in asking God to hear our voice. By the way, I counted, I like to count, and the phrase Shema Kolenu near the end was repeated 7 times. The great news is that we are addressing a God of compassion and love, compassion and grace, justice and love. So please notice that compassion and love are listed twice, but it's not a mistake. To believe in a force above us and beyond us and within us, with those qualities, can give us hope and purpose. Again, we have another prayer known for its music. At least 2 melodies that I can think of. You've heard one, and now you're going to hear the second one, shorter, that most people sing along with when the cantor sings it. I want you to keep in mind as we listen to this brief rendering of it, that it is chanted, the prayer is chanted in front of the open ark, in the presence of the Torah scrolls. That is the ultimate location for a prayer in any of our services. And whether this year we see that happen or not, we should keep in mind that a prayer for compassion and love is at the top of the list of our significant prayers. Look at the woman in the third box. She's sliding. Throughout our lives, we love to be heard. Occasionally, we may start a sentence with the word listen. In fact, when another person responds to us with the words, "I hear you," they're showing us their love and understanding and compassion. We also love to have a voice. In fact, when we use that phrase, it means that we're recognized, that we're counted, we are cared about and cared for as we would hope to be. On Yom Kippur, in this prayer known as Shema Kolenu, we put ourselves out there for God, and we don't want to be dismissed or diminished, cast away or forsaken. We hope that God will respond to us positively in whatever way or ways we may recognize a divine response. Kianu Amecha, for we are your people, is another we prayer, obviously, another recognition that we are not in isolation or in quarantine spiritually from everyone else. There are 12 pairs in this prayer, models of reciprocal relationships expressed in metaphor. These relationships are so integral to the High Holy Days in general and Yom Kippur in particular. By the same token, our reciprocal relationships are integral to our lives in general and during the pandemic in particular. We need to be able to rely on each other, to care about one another, to have a give and take relationship which boosts us rather than brings us down. Our atonement can lead to God's forgiveness and then to God's pardon of us. We and our families, we and our friends, we and our fellow citizens should be able to depend on each other during this pandemic. This should not be a time for self-absorption and disregard for the good of the community. With that interdependent relationship working, we can feel hope. Without it, we are helpless to end the pain and death and sorrow. We need to think about others as well as ourselves. As the commentary on the bottom of the page states so clearly, it is we, not isolated individuals, who celebrate our bond with the divine thou, as Martin Buber referred to God. The Yom Kippur Yizkor service is for some Jews the only service they attend during the whole year. So what's the draw? What is the power of this service? And why do some parents forbid their children from attending? There are many times in our lives that we feel alone in our sorrow because of death. But the Yom Kippur Yizkor service empowers and comforts us, bringing us together as a community and urges us to recognize what we have in common. It's sad, but it can motivate us to cherish the past and commit to the future. In the face of the coronavirus, we can make individual decisions that are selfish or selfless. We have so much in common with others by having had our lives altered and by being reminded on a daily basis that death lurks all around us. Most of us, unfortunately, know someone who died from the coronavirus or because of the conditions created by it. They are the real victims of the plague. But we can choose to do good and proclaim our faith in the future, to not be its spiritual or emotional victims. And in the next to the last line of the highlighted paragraph, there is an ellipsis after the words, "May God remember." It is there that we can say the names of our loved ones. Like those who have died during the pandemic, they aren't just a mere statistic. They're people who deserve to be named, who deserve to be remembered as individuals that someone loved and will always miss. Like the Kol Nidre, the El Malei Rachamim is known more for its haunting melody than for the actual words. Once again, we appeal to a compassionate God and honor the memory of our loved ones who have died. This prayer is either read or chanted at funerals as well, and it expresses hope in eternal life in what we in Judaism call the world to come, the Olam Haba. Having our memories of our loved ones are only second best to having them alive, but we can hope and pray that their souls are at rest in the divine light of a compassionate God, at home for eternity, and experiencing a sense of peace. This, to me, is true hopefulness, and we are better people for feeling that and for praying for them. In the Ne'ilah service, the last service of the day, we usually feel a combination of fatigue and hunger, preferably mixed with inspiration and satisfaction. In this prayer, Ata notein yad, you give a hand, we acknowledge the wonders of God's creations, nature and humanity. We human beings have the potential to be righteous or rebellious, good or evil, loving or hateful. And we forget sometimes that we have the power to choose our own behavior. And yet, despite the worst that we can be, God still loves us. It's never too late to stop doing wrong and to start returning to the right path. How can we not be hopeful for ourselves and the world when the gates of forgiveness are still open wide? How can we not be hopeful if we believe that there are ways in which God's nearness can be a part of our life? And so, just under the wire, just before the metaphorical gates are about to close, we express our solidarity with one another in the prayer Pitchu Lanu, open for us. And it's at this moment that we can feel the strength of connection to those who are with us and those whose presence we feel within. We have the opportunity here to see ourselves not as individuals who could care less about others, but as members of a community whose actions affect each other. As we've heard the phrase for the last few months, we're all in this together. Yom Kippur reminds us in a good way that we are all in this life together. Truth and integrity, devotion and principle, repentance and return, kindness and compassion and love. Those qualities mentioned in this prayer are humanity at its best. I can only speak for myself, not because I'm a rabbi, but because I'm a Jew. I end Yom Kippur ready for another year, hopeful enough to not feel helpless, faithful enough to not feel discouraged, and confident enough to not feel defeated. I can't control everything that happens, but I can control myself and help myself and be there for others. And now we return to where we started. At the end of the Unatana Tokef is the most important message of the High Holy Days. It tends to be the least remembered, the most overwhelmed because of the list of bad results piled on one another before it. This line emphasizes that our future is not predetermined. It's only full of possibilities. The die is not cast. We can influence what will happen. How? Through teshuvah, tefillah, and tzedakah, by returning to the right path of being the best human beings we can be, by having faith in God and our reciprocal relationship with our Creator, and by being proactive and helping other people. Each one of us has the ability to affect the harshness of the plague. It can literally destroy us or figuratively tear us apart. Or we can, through our thoughts and our actions, be filled with hopefulness and reject helplessness. That, to me, is the most important message of Yom Kippur, and the music conveys that message beautifully. L'shana tova tikatevu. May you be inscribed for a good year. The words, I assume, are familiar to you. And like a lot of our Yom Kippur prayers, it appears in the plural. Of course, each of us as individuals should have a good year. Wouldn't it be great if all of us had a good year? A year of unity rather than division, a year of compromise rather than conflict, a year of trust rather than suspicion, and a year of hopefulness rather than helplessness. And whether you believe literally or metaphorically in the book of life or not, it's a kind and caring expression to share with others. Gamar Chatima Tova, a final good sealing. As we end Yom Kippur, it all comes back to you, the individual, not isolated, not denigrated, not less of a person than when you began the High Holy Days. You, the individual, the member of a family, the member of a community, the member of a congregation, the citizen of a country. It all comes back to you. We talk about the inscribing and the sealing in the book of life being done by God. Yet, you have control. You have input. You have influence. You are blessed with the ability to make a positive difference for yourself, for others, and for the world. It's about you, and it's about us, being good and doing good. Okay, that is the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Karol. That was beautiful. I took a lot of notes, and the music was beautiful. You said a lot of inspiring things. We'd like to open it up for questions and comments. Rabbi Address, you can't go first. You can go maybe second or third, but you can't go first.
Well, he can go
Jean,
first if he's going to say something nice.
Jean, if you could unmute everybody, and I guess if you want to, what's the best way to do this, Jean? You have to unmute yourself.
Can't hear you, Jean.
Jean, we can't hear you. You have to unmute everybody.
I'm sorry about that.
There you
The
go.
best way is for people to raise their hand, and I'll call them in the order in which they raise their hand. There's that little blue hand. If you open up your participant button on the bottom of your screen, and you'll see raise hand is an option. You can also go to the upper right-hand corner. I think click on the three dots in the blue block, and I think gives you an option to raise your hand.
And if you can't figure that out, it's okay. Just wave wildly, and Jean will call on you. And if you could unmute everybody, that would be great.
I don't have the option to unmute anybody because I didn't mute them.
Ah,
They have to unmute themselves.
Yep, you have to
Okay.
unmute yourself.
And only when they're talking, they should unmute themselves.
okay.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. I can't see any raised hands, and I can't see anybody waving frantically. Oh, there's one. Oh,
There's one.
it's Rabbi Address. So I guess we'll let you go first.
Okay, you can go first.
I didn't know this group was so bashful, but anyway, Steve, thank you very, very, very much. A lot of that music brought me back to the old days as a kid at Knesset Israel in Elkins Park. All I needed was that huge organ when we were kids.
Yeah.
The Kianu Amecha and this concept that you tried to do of reciprocity of relationships within the context of that prayer. Could you just try to unpack that? Because I think this idea of reciprocity in this day and age, right now, this year especially, has never been more important and timely.
Sure. Let me see if I can go back to that. Yeah, here it is. Okay. So yeah, I mean, for me, this whole thing about reciprocity. Sorry, my eyesight is as good as it used to be, so I have to move forward a little bit. So, for example, it says, "We are your people; you are our God. Um, we are your beloved; you are our lover," which is kind of different than what it used to say, but it gets the idea across. We're your people. So I think what it says about God, I don't the way that it's set up in some ways, it's not an equal relationship. For me, a reciprocal relationship doesn't have to be an equal relationship. So a reciprocal relationship, for example, could be a parent with a child, or an employer with an employee, or a public servant with the people that may have voted for the public servant. That there are expectations on the part of each one, and it's kind of like you can't have one without the other. And so I think that's very important in terms of what's happening today. I think it's crucial for people to have expectations of one another and to not have one-sided relationships. So I think I used the term give and take. I know some people who in their families have give and take relationships. They give and the other people take. To me, that's not reciprocal. And so I think that, I'm not sure if this is what you're referring to, but I think that just to expand it from, now I can see it even better. Thank you, Donna. To expand it from what this is talking about, to me, it's a sense of partnership. I view myself as God's partner. And I don't want God. I don't believe that God does everything. I believe that my function as a human being is to do what God wants me to do, not to do it for God. And God has given me the ability to do that. So, and I think you could say within a congregation, there are reciprocal relationships, and hopefully you've experienced them, where people do things for one another. And so I think that's crucial. During the pandemic, yes, people should be doing things for one another. Frankly, there are too many selfish people out there. Just they're taking and not giving, and that's not good for the rest of us.
But I will say, I think following up on that, the whole growth of the rejuvenation in many congregations of their care and community programs, I think speaks to exactly what you're talking about. And the fact that so many congregations are making sure that nobody is alone, and that they're reaching out, they're shopping, they're calling. They may not be able to sit in a room with them, but they are trying to do their best to make sure that no one is left, alone. And that, I think, is part of that prayer. I think that's part of what my understanding of what you're talking about, that reciprocity.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why synagogues are so powerfully important, especially in this day and age, because it is a direct, this response, this reciprocal response based upon this concept of covenant and chesed, of compassion and loving kindness. Anyway.
Right. And there's also, of course, a reciprocal relationship between teacher and student, right? I mean, you can't teach if you don't have students. So just very quickly, I do a Tanakh study group. I've been doing it for 18 years. So this year we read the book of Daniel, and we were finishing up Daniel. And usually I meet with Tanakh study on Sunday mornings in person, but we had to stop at a certain point, obviously. So we went to Zoom, and just about everybody was able to get on Zoom. And we started coming to the middle of May, and somebody had the courage to say, "Rabbi, I know you usually don't teach during the summer, but I really love seeing all these people's faces.
Right.
Can we continue during the summer?" And I said, "Of course." And so we have met during the summer. We just got through with the book of Esther. We're taking Labor Day weekend off, but then we're starting in on another book. And there is such exhilaration that people experience by seeing of these other people in these small rectangles. And
No,
they don't regard it as virtual anymore. That's their reality. They love it.
Point. That's a good
Yeah, no,
point.
that's true. Everybody's going to have a Zoom code eventually, and that's maybe replace our phone number. But I know at the synagogue here, they will have something like tonight and open the windows, so to speak, like a half an hour before, and people just come just to see each other and to chat and to say, like we did before you logged in, how are you? How's this? How's that? It's really become extremely important, and really what you're doing is really that Kianu Amecha prayer.
Yep.
Rabbi, there were a couple things that you said that spoke to me in particular, and hopefully it touched other people as well, especially towards the end when you talked about that we have the power to choose our own behavior and that it's never too late to take another path. I mean,
Right.
I just think that was just a beautiful reminder that just because we're in a certain place or we're back in a certain place, it doesn't mean we can't make another decision or a new decision or make the same new decision again and make better choices for ourselves and for our lives. So that was very poignant to me. And another thing that you said to me gave me permission to maybe not be in mourning, but to continue to miss somebody and not say to myself, well, they've been gone 10 years. Why do you still miss them? Why are you thinking about that person? And you said that someone was loved and it's someone who you will always miss. And I just thought that was
You should read your book.
really beautiful. So who else would like to make a comment or ask a question before we move on with our evenings?
There are no blue hands raised. Does anybody care to wave at the camera?
Mrs.
Anybody?
Paul. Yeah, Stephen's wife, Rabbi's wife wants to say something. Is that okay?
Please,
Sure.
please go ahead.
Okay, so I was a Jewish music educator for 20 years. And when Stephen was working on this presentation, I said, you need the music in there. The music is so important to the service. It's important to all of our services, but I was watching some of you and yeah, you're swaying and the words are so beautiful. The music is just so beautiful that to hear it all around the house this past week, I said, I think I've been through Yom Kippur and that's it. But the music is so beautiful. And when I was growing up, we didn't have an organ or an orchestra or anything in our temple, but our cantor had a beautiful voice and just set the mode. And that's what the music does for me. Just a statement.
Yeah, just so you know, it was Donna's idea to put in the music. So credit to her.
Thank you,
That was a
Don.
very,
Thank
very
you,
good idea. Excellent
you.
idea. It was beautiful. Ellen Hare. Ellen, can you unmute yourself? The little red microphone. There you go. Go ahead, Ellen.
Oh, thank you, Rabbi, so much, and to your lovely wife as well. Speaking of the music, I've sung with the Temple Chorale now for the last 19 years, and it's devastating, that we're not going to get to meet, in person this year and missing that opportunity. So the music really touched me. Thank you so much.
Oh.
You're welcome.
And Ellen, we are missing your beautiful voice and the voices of the entire chorale. I see Sheila on the phone with us too, so on Zoom. So we will definitely miss that. Definitely.
I have done a lot of research on how to do virtual choirs. So if it's Sheila, is Sheila the director?
No, the cantor is.
The cantor is, well, it's not an easy task, but it could be done, and it's just got such a beautiful feeling.
Yes,
So-
the Cantor Bauer is working on that and putting together. She's promised a special surprise during the high holidays that she's put together.
Oh, I see the shaking of the head there. Okay, good. It's also something else about community without being together, without physically being together.
Oh, no. Music is, you're right, Don. It's very, very, very powerful. Very powerful.
It is. Thank you for that, Donna.
So I'm
Very
doing this
much.
presentation 2 more times, one for my own congregation where I'm emeritus, Yom Kippur afternoon, and another for a congregation in the, Jill, you'll know this, Hull, Massachusetts.
Yeah, sure. You're going down the Cape now.
Okay, so I'm doing one for them, but they're at my own congregation, I'm only being allowed 45 minutes. And at the congregation in Hull, they're only allowing me 30. So they don't get the music. So Jacksonville, you're special.
Well, thank you. Very
Whoa, lucky us. Well, I just want to say from the committee, from the congregation, from everybody on the Zoom call with us, thank you so much, Rabbi Karol, for giving us this beautiful presentation and insights as we get ready towards the High Holy Days. I greatly appreciate it. And Rabbi Address, we are looking forward to your presentation. Same time, same channel, 7 o'clock, spread the word, 7 o'clock. You'll see the link right in the Temple Times newsletter. And I believe you're going to talk about the theme of forgiveness. Is that correct?
Forgiveness, confession. It's going to build on, actually, each one of these things will build on the other. So it forms like a whole, like we put it together, segment, which will move into Slichot, which will focus on forgiveness, and then into the high holidays. So if y'all stick with this, you know, through the whole, all these things we've put together, there'll be a sense of a unity, of a diversity, or unity of thought, and hopefully stimulate some ideas and thinking in your soul. Because again, the theme of the high holidays for us this year is a conversation with our soul. And really it picks up on what Rabbi Karol was saying before, that this is part of who we are for the next month, and hopefully more than that, at least a year, at least the last. So thank you. 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock.
And one thing, please remember, if you've not picked up your high holiday prayer books, to stop by the temple either this Sunday between 10 and noon or next Sunday between 10 and noon. The Brotherhood will be passing them out. That's, you all should have a prayer book to work with.
And
so
you
look forward to seeing you.
You can get Rabbi Karol's book on the great God Amazon, who knows all and sees all, and
Right.
once again visited my house today. So
That's right. Or
Rabbi Karol, you want to talk?
yes, if you would like a signed copy of the book, then you can get in touch with me, send me an email. A couple of people there have my email, and it's $15 for a paperback, $25 for hardcover. And I would be happy to inscribe it to you, and we'll work out the payment one way or another. I want to thank Rabbi Address and Jill once again for having me be a part of this. And if things work out next week, Rabbi, I will be there on Zoom, listening and watching you. I have another speaking engagement at 6 o'clock, which is supposed to end at 7 o'clock. I'm talking to a congregation in California about the 4 foremothers. So hopefully I'll be able to get in. And the other thing I want to mention real quickly is I'm working on a second book. I've been doing it for the last few months. It's about signs that people receive from the souls of friends or family members that have died. It's a really interesting topic, and it's turning out to be a really inspiring and comforting topic. And I've been getting a lot of stories from people who've had experiences like this. So even if you've told people and they tell you that you're weird, you're not weird. And I would be happy to receive any experiences that anybody's had.
I look forward to seeing that book, because I'm convinced that right after my mother died 9 years ago, her spirit went right into my granddaughter. I mean, I almost saw it, like whack up. But anyway, hey, listen, Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich.
Stay healthy, stay safe. Thank your wife for her technical and her music and everything she's doing. Jill, thank you very, very much. Gene, thank you for the tech stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody, see you soon. Stay safe.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thanks a
I'll
lot.
keep the site open for
care.
a couple minutes if anybody wants to stay on and chat.
I've been going to sleep the whole time, had my eyes closed.
Jill, thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Jill, thank you. This was wonderful.
This was wonderful.
Unfortunately, I missed the first half of it.
So did we.
Well, I apologize for any inconvenience with the time. Sheila, you got that 30 minutes was chock full. So that was good. So next Wednesday, same time, 7 o'clock next Wednesday.
Thank
7
you.
p.m.
Okay.
7 p.m. And the following week, the 16th, we have Rabbi Simcha Raphael, and he will be finishing up our 3 in a series. So tonight, next Wednesday, and the following Wednesday. And then all the programs that are in the Temple Times throughout all the high holy days. Rabbi Address has us very, very busy this year.
Yeah. That's a
Felice-
good thing.
Felice- It's a good thing. Felice, are people buying a lot of makeup?
Oh, everybody wants to take, well, the lips are pretty much covered, but everybody wants to take care of their skin. Thanks for asking, Jill.
Yeah, and the eyes. I hear that a lot of eye makeup is
A
selling.
lot, and every woman wants to self-indulge with body lotions and everything like that. So thank you for asking. That's been fun.
I'm looking forward to seeing your next pink car, so.
Yeah, thank you so much. Everybody gets a ride.
In the pink car.
Thank you, Jill. This was wonderful. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank
Thank you.
Good
Thank
night.
you, Jean, very much. And thanks
You're
to
welcome.
Mary Ellen.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Hi, Lee. Are you still there? Lee's still there. Good night, Janie and Jean.
I was getting worried about you, Felice,
Oh, thank you, David. Nice to say hi to you. Why were you worried?
because I didn't hear anything about you on Friday night or
Oh, thank you. I was playing hooky Friday night.
or Torah study. I didn't hear anything, and I
Thank
didn't
you.
hear anything from you for wisdom. So that's unusual for you.
Thank you, David. It's good to say hi to you. Yes, I forgot the reason that I skipped all those too, some reason. But now I'm back. Thank you.
Well, you always have a good reason for everything you do.
David, many blessings. Thank you so much. It's nice to see Cheryl's sweet face too.
Yeah, it
Your
was
word.
nice.
David, it's good to talk to you always. I didn't see your name, and that's why I'm glad you're talking to me.
Oh yeah. Well, he usually converts my telephone number to name, but I don't know
Yeah.
what he did.
Yeah, it does say David Sellen right there. But I just
Oh,
was,
okay.
yeah. This was a very nice program, wasn't it?
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Very nice.
What he said about people talking to you, I had such an experience of my father, blessed memory, talking to me, and it's kind of funny. Cheryl, can you hear too? I don't think. Would you like me to tell it to you, David? We're still
Yeah.
on? All right, so my father of blessed memory died in February of 2009. So it's February and March, April, May, June. And so it was just a few months, and Father's Day was coming up, and I happened to be in Walmart, and I'm browsing around, and I was still, you know how it is, you're never over it, but that the worst is over, but I was still kind of really, feeling whatever. Anyway, so I see all the Father's Day stuff, and my dad is buried up in New York. So I started thinking, I'm gonna do something crazy and wonderful for Father's Day. I'm gonna get some of these T-shirts and have them sent up to the cemetery, and maybe it was all crazy. All my thoughts were, this is gonna be so much fun, and they'll help me up there. And I heard my father's voice just like he was sitting next to me. I heard his voice with his own personal sense of humor, and he said, "Felice, don't be stupid. I'm dead."
Oh, goodness.
He would have said that too.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave you with that wonderful story, Felice. You
All
ought to
right,
put that in writing.
Be well, David. Yeah, Daddy would love it. Thank you.
Good night,
Cheryl,
ladies
it's
and
wonderful.
gentlemen.
Cheryl, it's good to see you. Take a minute and catch up, please.
Just
How
a
are you?
minute. Yes. Yeah. With
How
you
are
know,
you? You look wonderful.
oh, thank you.
You've
know,
been missed too. Everything
oh,
okay?
thank you. Puppy dogs. This is
Hello.
their time in the evening too.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
so I had to break away there to take them outside. Otherwise,
Okay.
they're going to leave me gifts elsewhere.
Yeah, you don't want that. Hey,
No.
I see Lee's voice too. Anyway,
Huh?
be well. Thank you. I'll see you soon, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person as well as online.
Someday, yes.
God willing.
So be well. Take care.
Be well. Be
Okay.
well. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Lee.
Is Lee still here?
I see her name, but I don't see
Yeah, she was
her.
here. Lee Wagner.
Yeah. Be well. Good night, everybody.